Okay, section 6.3b is on determining the equation of a parabola in factored form. So from the last section we decided we were going to change those that are an s to m and n, just in case the s is mistaken as a 5. So if you're asked to sketch a parabola that passes through the 2 points -4, 0 and 3, 0, where there be only one possible graph that could be drawn. And the answer to that question would be no, because if I just estimate it, there's -4, saying there's 3. We've got a bunch of different graphs could be drawn. You could draw one that goes like this. You could draw one that goes like this. You could draw one that's really wide, or one that's really narrow, and so on. So there's lots of different graphs that could be drawn. So when you're only given the x-intercepts, there's a family of parabolas that are possible, and you'd have to know a little bit more information to get the exact equation that you're talking about. All you need really to get that exact equation, if there's a specific one in mind that you have, is to know one extra point on the parabola, and then you can draw a unique graph to determine the exact equation. So here, I'm going to try a few examples now to show you what you can do. So for example, in the bottom one below, first example, we're given the graph and we're asked to find the equation in factored form. So we know that the factors aren't enough, but we need that specific graph that has that vertex and everything that's shown in this graph here. So we're going to start with the x-intercepts and get the factors, and then we'll use another point on the graph to help us determine the exact equation. So the x-intercepts from looking at the graph are x equals -1 and x equals +3. So if we work backwards, that means the factors would have to be x plus 1 and x minus 3, which means the equation would have to be y equals a. We don't know what a is, but we do know that the factors would be x plus 1 and x minus 3. And all we would need to do to find out specifically what a is to pick another point that's on the parabola that isn't one of the x-intercepts, and just plug it into the equation to figure out what the a value has to be. So I'm going to pick the y-intercept. So if I pick the y-intercept, I've got the point, just write in what point I'm using here, 0, 6. So if I fill in that for x and that for y in my equation, I know that when y is 6 on this equation and the a is 0, this equation should be a true equation. So 6 equals a times 1 times a -3, which means 6 is equal to -3a. So if I divide out the -3, I will be able to solve to figure out what a needs to be. So a needs to be, that's a -3 there, sorry, a needs to be -2. So therefore my equation, the specific equation I want for this particular graph would be y equals -2 outside of x plus 1 by x minus 3. Alright, the next example has x-intercepts. I'm going to use this space down here so I run out of space. X equals -5 is 1, and the other one is x equals 2. So then I'm going to go to my equation then. I know the factors would be x plus 5 and x minus 2. So then our equation would be of the form y equals a, that's what we still need to find, and the factors would be x plus 5, x minus 2. So then we'd use the point that we have there, which is given as 3, 2. So that means that when x is 3, y has a value of 2. So we use that information and sub in 2 for y equal to a outside of 3 goes in for the x, 3 plus 5, bracket 3 minus 2 for the other factor. We're just subbing in 3 for the x and 2 for the y. So then we solve that equation to figure out what a needs to be, because if that point is on that graph, that means the equation must be true when x is 3 and y is 2. So we have the first set of brackets, 3 plus 5 is 8, and the second set of brackets, 3 minus 2 is 1. So that gives us 2 equals 8a, and then if we solve for a, we get that. I'm just going to move this over here a little bit. We get that a would be equal to 2 over 8, which is 1/4. So that means our equation is y equals, so therefore our equation is y equals 1/4 x plus 5 x minus 2. All right, so example 2 here now has, instead of a graph, you've just been given the points, list of points that are on a parabola, and you're asked to come up with the equation. So determine the equation of a parabola that passes through the points -10, 0, and 2, 0. If you think about that for a minute, if the y-coordinate is 0, that means these are x-intercepts. So you have the x-intercepts would be x equals -10 and x equals 2. So therefore the factors would be x plus 10 and x minus 2. Just the opposites, right? And then so therefore the equation would be of the form y equals a outside of x plus 10, x minus 2. And we figure out the a using the point that they gave us, which is 0, -40. And that happens to be the y-intercept because the x-coordinate is 0. So using that point, we know that when y is -40 and a is 0, this equation should be true, and that gives us a times 10 times -2, which gives us -40, equals 10 times a -2 is -20 times the a is -20a, and then if we want to solve for a, we divide both sides by -20 to get the a by itself, and that gives us a, because I was going to cancel, a equals 2. So therefore our equation is y equals 2 outside of x plus 10 and x minus 2. So just go back in and fill in the a value. And the next example is very similar to that one. It says that you have to determine the equation of the parabola that passes through the points 4, 0, -4, 0, and 5, 18. So again, these have a y-coordinate of 0, so that means they are x-intercepts. So the x-intercepts would be x is equal to 4 and x is equal to -4. And therefore the factors, if you work backwards, would have to be x minus 4 to get x equals 4. And to get x equals -4 as the x-intercept, you'd have to have a factor of x plus 4. So therefore the equation has to be of the form y equals a outside of x minus 4, x plus 4. And then we're going to use our point, which is 5 and 18. And again, this is the x, this is the y. So when y is 18 in our equation and x is 5, we get 18 equals a times 5 take away 4 is 1, 5 plus 4 is 9. So we end up at 18 equals 9a. And then if we want to solve for a, we want to divide out the 9. So we divide the 9 by, from both sides of the equation. And we again get a equals 2. So that means the equation equals y equals 2 for a. And the two factors were x minus 4 and x plus 4. There's some questions there on page 348 of the text you can try.